Oh, recording in
Yeah.
progress. That's new. I'm here with Primalista Veronica from South Australia. Hello, Veronica.
Hi.
And we are here today because we are celebrating Veronica, or V as I like to call her, her first Primaversary. So that's a made-up word that we have. Primaversary is celebrating your first 12 months of being a Primalista. So I'd love to, first of all, start, Veronica, with what problems were you struggling with before Primal Alternatives? So if you could just think back to when you first considered joining, what was going on that made you interested in a license like this?
Okay, so had been looking at Primal Alternative for a while, but it just wasn't kind of it was kind of in the background, just wasn't really sort of willing to make the commitment. And then last year when COVID happened, then I actually got stood down from my permanent job, and that really was the defining factor of me actually purchasing the Primalista license, because at that time it was so uncertain. No one knew what was happening. I didn't know whether I was going to be out of work for a few weeks, a couple of months, possibly, even a year. So I didn't like that fact that I didn't know, that I didn't have control of my income. So that was my defining factor of going in and doing the Primalista license.
Yeah, and I love that you started in the midst of COVID, and we've done another video on that, haven't we, about getting started during COVID and how that was. So tell us a little bit now, 12 months down the track, what are your major breakthroughs as a Primalista? So have you added any new stockists or customers? Spending more time doing what you love to do, had any awesome feedback from customers, that kind of thing?
I think my biggest breakthrough was actually really just getting started. So I've only really just started baking in the last couple of months. I had a couple of false starts and just a couple of things sort of happening in life as you do that. Sometimes you feel like I was struggling to sort of feel like I needed to be able to only be able to focus on one thing to get started. But probably in hindsight, I really do wish that I had not let those factors stop me from actually getting started, and that I had worked through them. So I think now I see that as a breakthrough, because obstacles come up all the time, and you can either just go, well, I can't bake this week because of this, or you can always come up with excuses. But rather, as soon as I identify those excuses now, I actually go, okay, well, calling kind of a little bit of BS now, and that's excuses, and how do I actually work through them, and how do I get through them? And so I feel like I've really brought that into not just my bring as a Primalista and into my Primal Alternative business, but it's actually worked through things in my own personal life as well, and not letting those excuses or other people's opinions or whatever they might be actually get in my way. So yeah,
That's huge. And I know, I know that you've had a couple of very significant personal experiences over the last 12 months that nobody could have foreseen. When you signed the license agreement and got started, there was no way you would have known what was coming. And so I know you're saying it's you're calling BS, and you're wishing that you'd started earlier, but I do think that one of the beauties of this model is there's no prizes for getting started straight away, and you can start whenever you want. There's no pressure or any targets to hit or minimum sales to make, which is good, because like you said, who knows what's around the corner? Like, it's so uncertain, especially these days, right? So what I'd love to know, like, from you is, how did you do that? Like, how did you, and you say you're there's always something going on, and it's true. Like, I know there's people out there who might have bought a course, or downloaded an audio book, or bought a book, or even bought a Primalista license, and are yet to get started. And that's not necessarily a bad thing for that person, because life does have hurdles and obstacles, like all the time. I always say there's never a nirvana period of time where you've got all the time in the world and all the money in the world, nothing going wrong, because there's always something happening. But how did you personally identify those hurdles and personally get through them? Because that's huge.
I think sometimes we wait to start something until we feel like it's the right time, that everything is going to be aligned. And I think if we waited for everything to be 100% to get started with anything, we would miss so many opportunities. And yes, with my business, I had some major things happening in my personal life that sidetracked my business a little bit. And I felt now was kind of like, I hate sort of saying that right time, but I just kind of thought, like, you know what, it's now or never, and I'm the only one that can get started, and I can actually I can control my bake days. I can control how much sales I want and how many little sales I want. So sometimes I know that personally I can get overwhelmed thinking about so many different things, and I let that stop me from getting started. So when I feel like that, I kind of just stop. I take like a 5-minute breather, or walk away, or do something, get some fresh air, something that kind of just steps you away from what it is that you're doing that might create that overwhelm, and just give yourself 5 minutes to kind of regroup and go, okay, I've got this, and what do I need to do? Do I need to write a to-do list? What's the most important things that I need to do first? And sometimes, even if it is with a book or something as simple as that sits on our bedside table, it doesn't mean that when you pick up a book, you have to pick up a book and read for 30 minutes or an hour. There's no right or wrong. Maybe it's only 1 page a day, but at least 1 page a day gets you started, compared to thinking that, once you've opened that book, you've got this timeline that you need to finish it in. And I think they're just added pressures that we add to ourselves that just don't need to be there.
Such words of wisdom. I love that. I know the other Primalistas are going to really love that too. You're going to really dig into it. So I know that we talk about, like, you're on your own, it's just up to you. But tell me a little bit about, and this is a bit off script, but I'm just, hopefully you're happy to go with the flow, but tell me a little bit about the sisterhood and the community, and how what happened with Primalista Sonia moving house was a really good kind of like foot up for you and your business.
Yes, so I actually had one of the other Primalistas reach out to me that's here in South Australia, who was moving out of her current area and had a stockist, and she approached me and said, would I be interested having that stockist that we have here at the Central Market? And I just thought, you know what, it's now or never. I really don't have any excuse to not get started, and at least I know that with that stockist, there is some certainty there in regards to that I need to do that bake on a weekly basis. And it was just amazing. The group, the community is just awesome. That the fact that someone would actually reach out to me to give me some business, because that stocker still needed someone to bake for them and have that faith in wanting to share with me. And it's just amazing. And at no time, what I love about the group, all the Primalistas, is that no one ever feels that they're in competition with one another. It doesn't feel like that at all. And sometimes when you're coming into it, you can't quite understand that. You think, obviously you need sales, or you're looking for a stockist, and maybe someone might have already approached that stockist, but it really is such a group. I won't call it a sisterhood, because we do have some men in the group now as well, but it really just feels like that. That at any time you can just jump on the Facebook page that we've got and ask a question, and there was always going to be someone there that has gone through something similar, or who will answer you or will help you find the answers that you need. And it's a community like no other, that's for sure.
Oh, yes, it's true. Yeah, sisterhood and one brother. We got Jim.
Yes.
Sisters and Jim.
Yes.
And he likes the sisterhood, so it works out really well. Good old Jim. Okay, so a couple of just like kind of quick fire stats. So you're baking 1 day a week at the moment, is that right?
Yes, so consistently is 1 day a week. So I work my baking when I've got two little ones. One is at school and the other one's still at kindy. So I need to have my bake done basically between that 9:30 and 2:30. On the odd occasion, I do add in a bake on the weekend if I've had some really large orders come through and I know that the products that I'm going to be baking aren't going to fit within that timeline. But otherwise, for me consistently is every week on a Tuesday.
Yeah, nice. That's your day for baking. I love it. So during that time that you're baking, how many products are you normally able to bake, and how long does it take you?
Oh, that's hard. Some could, because it does change weekly based. I've got my one stockist that has 5 loaves and 2 lots of the wraps. And so what I try and always work in is, obviously if I can promote the things that I'm already baking to make life easier, and helps with not having to do too many different products at a time. So I'm always baking the hemp seed bread. I'm always baking the fat and seedy bread. I'm always baking some wraps on a weekly basis. Today's bake, I added in a couple of packet mixes. I added in some pizza bases. So at this stage, every Tuesday doesn't quite look the same, but that is fine with me. But I know that if I'm going to be baking some particular items, I do try and promote them as well during the week and see if I can add on any additional sales to there as well.
Yeah, perfect. Sounds great. Now, I know we've talked a lot about you and your personal life and how this is, you've evolved with this business as well, because, running a business really is a brilliant personal growth journey as well as running a business. So how have you changed? Is there any other things that you want to add to that? Are you more productive, more confident, more clear? Have you made new friends? Are you feeling less stressed, more focused, sleeping better, setting better boundaries? Anything like that?
Yeah, I definitely feel I've gained in confidence in the fact that I've sort of I actually have my own business and I'm my own boss in this regards for those days that I'm doing Primal Alternative, and so definitely grown in that regards. And I definitely have helped. I was a pretty organized person before, but I do work another part-time job, so I do have to be extremely organized. I've got 2 young kids, I've got a family, I've got a household that I need to run. So it's taken probably a few weeks to a couple of months to actually get that rhythm going of, so which days am I working my other job, and what am I doing? What days am I doing my Primal Alternative? When am I fitting in the other stuff like ordering and invoicing? When am I getting my washing done? When am I, vacuuming the house? All those things that we have to do. What time, that I'm organized, that I've got stuff always in the freezer or fridge ready for dinner. So it's definitely helped in that regards to the organization and doing something. I've spoken to H about this before. We actually spoke a couple of weeks ago, but I don't, even though I'm actually fitting more stuff in my life with my baking, I actually feel like I've actually got more energy than I ever had before, because when I do my bake day, it really does feel that terminology where if you do something that you love and if you're passionate about it, it fills your cup. And that is so true with being a Primalista. On those days that I bake, I feel like I just get like a whole lot of energy, and that actually helps me to get on during the rest of the week. So my Tuesday is actually by far my favorite day. Any day that I'm doing baking, even though you're pretty tired or exhausted by the end of it with everything else that's going on, and part of being a mum and running a household as well, but it's my Tuesday bake day that actually gives me the energy and the motivation to do everything else that I need to get done in the week.
Amazing. That's so cool. So happy for you. That's awesome. And I know, like, we did have a session a couple of weeks ago, so I already know the answers. But you've got some great, you've got some great plans for Primal Alternative by Veronica. So do you want to share a little bit about how you'd like to see your business evolve over the next 12 months?
So I've got a plan in regards to what I'm wanting to achieve on a weekly basis in regards to sales. So at this point, I'm just trying to be as consistent as possible, and that is, you know, posting regularly on social media, starting to look at some different groups that I can be a part of. Having a market stall doesn't quite sort of suit me at the moment. It's not something, it doesn't mean that I wouldn't do in the future, but at this point I'm just looking at trying to have some consistent sales on a weekly basis and grow. Grow organically, but it doesn't mean growing organically just happens by itself. You've still got to put the work in and the effort of talking to people and posting to people and answering questions. And I've even got a bit of an idea of a bit of a soft launch as well with some of the mums from our school and some other people that I know, so that I can actually give them the opportunity to get the product out there and try that. So that's one way I'm looking at actually growing the business from there as well. I'm hoping to sort of start contacting as well a couple of more stockists, but at this stage it's just about consistency. I'm happy where I'm at in regards to just that slow growth, because that's what suits me at the moment. I'm kind of limited in regards because I've got a little one that's not at kindy or childcare every day, so I need to try and fit in my baking and my business around that. But I'm hoping that all the steps and all the tools that I do this year is going to help for when he actually starts school next year, and I've got the tools and everything implemented in place to actually then grow my business more when the time is ready.
Yeah, no, it's a great plan, you know, and you know, the 12 months is up. You've paid your license fee off, so that's a great achievement. And now, you know, you're just paying your monthly membership, and you've put all of the foundation work, all the groundwork in for your business, so that now, you know, as your family evolves, you've got that capacity to grow your business at a pace that works for your family.
And it's great just seeing that my business is actually it's paying for itself. So everything that I purchase, whether I do some coaching with H every couple of months, or whether I'm buying ingredients, or whatever it is, I need my labels, maybe it might be some you know, advertising or business cards or whatever it is, but the business is actually paying for itself, which is that in itself is something that it's great to see that.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, for any kind of production business, there's usually always a lot of overheads, and to be actually, you know, the business to be able to be paying for itself in the first year is phenomenal. And so that's great, and we know that's why we love the license, and that's why, you know, you've chose to do it as opposed to start from scratch yourself. So is there anything else that you want us to know about the license or the Primalista community or your experience so far?
I think if you're sitting on the fence, I mean, I know that I came in and I had so many questions, and I needed to be able to get started. Yes, I needed to have those questions answered, but in hindsight, probably most of those questions I asked were just kind of like a bit of a barrier. The questions I needed to ask were actually to myself and within myself, and really the reason for not getting started wasn't because there were certain things that I needed answered by H, even though by Helen, even though she did a really good job in answering the many multiple questions that I had, but it was actually within myself and having that confidence within myself to actually branch out, go out there and actually have my own business and know that I'm a business owner. And so I've wanted to do it for such a long time. And yes, you have those, what do you call them? You know, you have those knots in your stomach at first, and you have that little bit of stress and anxiety about it, if it's not going to work, and what do you do, and what's going to happen. But just work through them, have a plan, write it all out, meet other people in your community, speak to them, have those questions answered, and really actually sort of delve deep and go and look within yourself in regards to, do you really want this? And if you do really want this, you can make it happen.
Oh, Beautiful. So in terms of getting started as a Primalista and, you know, what's available to you in terms of the recipes and resources, was that easy to follow, or did you have a lot of questions around that as well?
Everything is there within the resources, but sometimes it's just, you know, because there is a lot of information there, sometimes it is easier just to actually jump on the Facebook page or even scroll through the Facebook page, because most of the time all the answers are there. So there is always those initial things in regards to when you do get started. Yes, your to-do list is absolutely a lot longer than once you sort of start baking, but you're not the first one to have to go through it. And there's hundreds of other people there in the community that you can actually ask, that they've all gone through it, and they will share with you you know, what hurdles did they need to overcome, or what order did they do things to help stop with that overwhelm. And once you sort of start to, if you get out of your head and start to actually just ask for that help, the help is there for you.
Yeah, it's always, I remember there was a post once, because whenever I see a question in the group, I'm like, oh, have I not answered that? Have I not answered that or put that information adequately on the resources page? And I remember like saying, this is how you find this information that you've asked for, it's here, there. And somebody had written something like, yeah, I know, I could look for it on the website, but it's much easier just to ask in the Facebook group. And like, that's totally fine too, you know, absolutely is. So what would you say to somebody who's on the fence about joining Primal Alternative, or maybe they've seen this pop up and they're like, whoa, this looks amazing, but it's on the internet and I'm not too sure. What would you say to that person?
I think just do your research, ask the questions that you need to ask, really think about what it is that you're wanting to get out of this business, what is it that you're wanting to achieve. Set yourself some boundaries. I think one of the biggest things that Helen said to me, I remember from the very beginning, was actually setting myself some boundaries, and that really helped in regards to organizing and having certain things that I do on certain days, because it's so easy when, you know, when you're home to want to add, you know, a load of washing on, or to vacuum, you know, the house. But, you know, does your house actually need to be vacuumed on a daily basis? No, it doesn't. And do you need to have an empty washing basket? No, you don't. And it was just all those things, that those time wasting things that you can get distracted with at home. So just think about what it is that you want to achieve. What do you want to get out of it? And what is actually stopping you, and work from there. And you know what? Just give it a go. In the end, if it doesn't work, it doesn't work, but at least you haven't invested like a bricks and mortar business, where sometimes it's you have to invest $100,000 or $200,000 just to get started. It's really is a small investment, and for what you are getting back out of it is so much more than the dollars that it actually costs you to invest in.
Gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous. Well, thank you so much for sharing your Primalista experience so far with us, Veronica. And I encourage everybody to go over and follow you on your social media pages, so they can find out more about you and find out more about those amazing things that you're doing. Just before we go, just tell us what you did with that pastry at the weekend.
So anything to get out of watching the football over the weekend. I was just sitting there and kind of craving something warm. It's been a little bit cold here, you know, obviously being winter, and I'm in South Australia, so you know, it can get cool. And so I was like, what can I do? And I had some of the sweet potato pastry already in my freezer. So one of the best things about being a Primalista is you've always got an endless supply of items in your fridge and your freezer that are backup, which is fantastic. And so I thought a bit of the pastry, and I just rolled it out really, really thin. And the idea sort of came because I'd actually made like a more traditional apple pie the week before, but used the sweet potato pastry. And I just thought, how can I do that without sort of doing all the fuff of like having to, you know, open the oven and it bake for another 40 minutes or something like that. So I just rolled out the pastry really thin. I got my toasty machine out, you know, like, yeah, I think in some of the places in Australia you call it a jaffle maker, but I got my toasting machine, just rolled out really thin, just sliced some apples really, really thinly, popped a little bit of cinnamon on there, whatever sort of, you know, spices that you want to add to it. Or maybe you've only got jam in your fridge, maybe you've got some pears. Like, now that I'm thinking about it, there's just so many alternatives that you can do. And it literally, yes, I think I'm going to roll some chocolate. The next time I roll out some dough, I'm going to do some with some cacao through it, and then you could still have like a fruit filling, or maybe you know, like a hazelnut filling, or, you know, really the sky is, the limits are endless. So, and it really only took literally 7 minutes to bake, and you know, then you can add some cream to it, or add some ice cream, or even just had it like that. I mean, like, I had 2 left, and that was my breakfast this morning. So,
oh, heaven, heaven! Why not? This sounds amazing. That sounds so good.
Yeah, I just got to come up with a really quirky name or something like that, like, you know, because it was like an apple pie crossed with the toasty. So I need someone to actually come up with a really.
Already on the blog, and so Mel called it apple cross toasty.
Yeah.
Which I liked that. Go Mel, that was a good idea. Thank you, Mel. But I saw, I think it was on the food or the taste website or something like that, pops up on my Instagram. And what they'd done is they'd taken a pancake mix in one of those pie makers. You know, you can get them from Kmart. Yeah. I use them to make pies, surprisingly. But you put the pancake mix on the bottom, and then you put in like a healthy version of like a hazelnut spread. You know, we all know what I mean, right? Put that in, and then you put some more pancake mix on top, and then you put the pie thing down. Then you get like this little like pancake, and then in the middle, it's like one of those, it just all oozes out. Oh,
yeah, like a fondant thing. Oh my gosh, yum!
Gonna try that. Keep meaning to try that. I want to do that today, actually. Cool.
Right, well, definitely trying this bread with the chocolate, so that's definitely this weekend.
Oh wow! Well, I look forward to that. And if you're thinking, oh my god, where can I get that recipe? It's on the Primal Alternative blog, or follow Veronica's Instagram. How can we find you on Instagram? What's the best address to look you up?
So my Instagram handle is Primal Alternative by Veronica. Nice and simple. I'm the only one on there with that name. So if you follow me on there, and I always share anything that I'm baking or anything new that I've tried, like my apple cross toasties.
Yeah, awesome. All right. Well, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Helen.